Welcome to another episode of Homeschool Moms Unfiltered. I'm your host, Megan, and my amazing co-host is...
Hi, I'm Amanda.
Hello, and welcome. We are your source for messy, imperfect homeschool advice and community. The advice is good, but we don't do the, we are so perfect and you should be just like us kind of influencer vibes around here. We are two perimenopausal women who have zero interest in putting on airs so that other people can feel like crap in comparison to us.
Yeah, so true. And while we are women, let's address the elephant in the room. We are moms and we are unfiltered, but everyone else is welcome here. We are a secular and progressive space, so we will never assume your family is a mom, a dad, 2.5 kids living in the suburbs with a picket fence yard. Neither one of us fit that, so we wouldn't expect you to.
Exactly. All families are welcome here. That means your two-dad family, your blended family, your immigrant family, your Wiccan family, your trans child, your profoundly gifted child, your disabled child, your neurodivergent child, your only child, your giant, loud, beautiful, chaotic crew, your herd of children, your family that looks nothing like the stock photo version of homeschooling, and your family that is actually a mom, a dad, and 2.5 kids, but you don't like being shoved in that homogenous box.
Yeah, we are definitely not here to define a real family or what that looks like. We're not here to hand you one narrow version of homeschooling wrapped in gender roles and religious assumptions and Pinterest lighting. We are here for the families who want something more honest, more flexible, more inclusive, and just more rooted in actual children than in what people think education is supposed to look like.
The bottom line is we can agree to disagree on tons of things. I am what I have always referred to as a loosey-goosey unschooler, but I'm now coining the term intentional unschooler. And Amanda is an aggressive academic homeschooler. So we homeschool very differently. Yet here we are cheering each other on, celebrating each other's kiddos' victories. We can do that like the mostly mature women we are. But what we cannot do is agree to disagree on human rights. Not happening.
Absolutely. Every once in a while, the algorithm sends us someone who clearly took a wrong turn on the way to our social media pages. And no one who's listening is going to be surprised to know they do love to make it their mission to tell us all of the ways our beliefs are wrong. Like the lady last week who was just hell-bent on convincing us that PragerU's video on why the 3/5 compromise was anti-slavery. I mean, look, everyone is welcome to stay and learn, or even just join in our community. But if there's one thing we're taking from our favorite content creators, it's that we aren't required nor obligated to engage with or even keep around those who just aren't interested in actually being a part of what we're building here.
Exactly. We have a very large world of homeschooling that we are running, the two of us. Okay. Who knew?
And our invisible team, a team of invisible friends.
Right? We publish books, unit studies, a weekly podcast. We host an online community with live meetings. We have a parent book club over there. We hold numerous coaching sessions every week individually with parents who are looking for really specific support and guidance and recommendations. We do not have the time to babysit somebody who chooses to be willfully ignorant on our social media channels. Just not happening. Bye-bye.
Yeah, that's just it. There are literally tons of spaces that feed off of that kind of whitewashed, racist, religious messaging in the homeschool world specifically.
Oh, yeah.
Go enjoy those spaces. They're there. They're for you. Why do you insist on coming into our space and being like, I don't like your space. You should change. Look, we will just be over here living our best woke homeschool lives.
Exactly. So today we are going to be talking about something that's been popping up a lot in Facebook groups lately, so it seems timely. Why giving homeschool a trial run is not a good idea. Okay. So it's a very, very common topic that gets floated in homeschool spaces. And we're recording this at the end of May. It'll air at the end of May. We're on a tight turnaround right now because, the books and the online community and the unit studies and the 47 other things that we mentioned we were doing this week. So, so
I know.
yeah.
I was talking to a friend whose recording schedule is like 3 or 4 months out. And I was like, I can't even imagine. Like this past one, we were like maybe 3 weeks out because of my travel schedule. And it felt so bizarre to try to do it. I was just like, how do you record 4 months out? Like I can't even imagine.
I feel like especially too, because sometimes we talk about things that are going on in current events during our episodes, and the news cycle right now is so insane that it's like nothing's even relevant 4 hours later, let alone 4 months later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but also we're in this window at the end of May here, right? Where people are pulling their kids out of school and they're either thinking about homeschooling in the fall and they're super nervous, and that's totally natural, or they've committed kind of sort of to homeschooling in the fall. And so they're like, okay, this summer we're going to dip our toe in the water. We're going to kind of test things out. So we're going to be digging into that in our typical homeschool Moms Unfiltered way, where we'll kind of meander a little bit to the east and a little bit to the west of that topic. So if you're an existing homeschooler, stick around because there will end up being some points in the mix here for you as well. But first, we begin all of our episodes with a weekly recap. It's part of our anti-influencer, keeping it real vibe around here. So how's your week been, Amanda? I see. So in our last episode, we talked about you going to St. Louis, and I shared that it was the only place I've ever traveled where I felt unsafe being alone with my kids. In the particular neighborhood we were in, I'm not painting all of St. Louis with this brush, but you're here. So good on you. How'd it go?
I survived St. Louis. No, we had a very different St. Louis experience than you did. We stayed, we points and miles hack. So anyone who does that knows that Hyatt is kind of the darling in that world because it's the cheapest way to redeem points for hotels. So we stayed at the Hyatt at the Arch, which is just literally right across the street from the Arch. Super convenient. Actually, it's in between the Arch and the old courthouse museum where the Dred Scott case was heard. So you can now go that exhibit reopened, I think maybe just last year. And so you can go in there. It's really awesome. The Arch was great. They redid the Arch museums and exhibits in 2018. They were really good. There was some stuff that I was a little like, but generally speaking, it was really solid. There was even one point in time when my mom turned to me and she was like, I'm going to guess they thought because this is in Missouri and it's a red state, this would be safe, but this would not pass Trump's America has to always be great in my national parks edict that he made. I was like, no, I don't think it would. So yeah, it was good. We had a nice time. We walked around late at night. We felt perfectly fine. So I'm just going to put that out there. We also went to City Museum, which is a lot of fun if you're not familiar and you happen to be there. It's kind of like a children's museum, but for all ages. It's like 10 stories high and there's just tons of stuff to see and do and check out. And it's definitely interactive. You can spend a lot of time there. Not cheap. I'll put that out there, but definitely fun. We did the riverboat cruise. My dad loves a boat and we generally enjoy tours and informational things like that. But of all the ones that he's been on, and I've personally taken him on several when he comes to California to visit us. He'd never been on the Mississippi Riverboat cruise tour there. So we did that together and that was fun. Learned some new interesting things. So yeah, we just had a nice time. And then if you're watching on video, you probably notice like, oh, she's not in her regular recording place, but that is not a hotel room. You're correct. It's not a hotel room. You can see my grandma's quilt in the corner on the bed. It's not my normal fancy recording space, but that's okay. We make it work. That's part of homeschooling. Mm-hmm. We try to spend a couple months a year at least back visiting my family. It's a lot cheaper for us to come for really long trips to stay with them than for them to come out and try to stay in our 2-bedroom condo or pay for a hotel room in California for weeks on end. This year it happens to be a little bit earlier, so that's been interesting. Tons of rain for anyone who's from the Midwest. Like, yo, there is so much rain here. I don't know how you all haven't floated away yet. So yeah, just trying to do all the things. Super first world problem. We plan to sell signed books of our new book, and I just recently realized that I need a better signature that you can actually read the fact that my name is Amanda. So, been working on that. Yeah, it's not going great, but maybe it'll get better.
Some practice.
That's it. I was going to say practice makes perfect, but it's not going to get perfect. Practice makes better. We'll put it that way.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah. So, how about you? What do you got going on?
Well, speaking of fancy recording spaces, because I record in the corner of my bedroom in our tiny apartment. So I have talked before about the fact that I am adding color and life to all of our apartment, and my room will be the next one because it's basically almost done. Although I am now painting a mural upstairs in one of my kids' rooms because I just can't
Glutton for
not have a
punishment.
project. And I was like, this would be so cool. And he was like, yes, that would be so cool. So I actually just got back from the hardware store before we recorded buying paint. You'll be shocked to know if you're a Pokemon fan or a parent of a Pokemon fan that they don't have readily mixed paint in like Charizard orange and Squirtle blue. So it took me a little bit of time because I had to get custom colors mixed, but it's going to be amazing when it's done. But my room is still white and boring. That'll be my next project after that. I kind of put this on hold until after our book comes out on June 23rd because taking on anything that big right now would not be wise. But I did order 2 new prints for my little gallery wall that I've been working on building over here. And I'm not even going to tell you what they are, but they're both very me and very ridiculous. And just, I'm so excited. So they will be coming in the next couple of weeks. One of them is a physical print from an artist. And so I shipped it to my brother-in-law's house. He's going to ship it to my daughter, who's going to Colorado for a weaving conference in a couple of weeks. And then she's going to bring it back. So by mid-June, it'll be here. The other one is a digital download from Etsy. So that one will be a little bit better for me to be able to get that up on the wall. But I was happy to support this original artist. He only does prints. So there you have it. But yeah, I mean, other than that, my whole life has just been like Amanda, book, 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 book. We're like those seagulls from Nemo. Mine. We've been working on getting our book out. We had a team of advanced readers. They've been sending feedback, just making sure everything is totally perfect. We're doing pre-order sales. At this point, we still have, at the time we're recording this, we still have some of our first 100 pre-orders available, which are signed, and they come with a Proud Woke Homeschooler sticker and a free unit study and a live Q&A with us and all of that. And it's not any more expensive. It's the same price as what the book will be later. So might as well grab one of those on our website, homeschoolmomsunfiltered.com. While you're at it, if you recall, if you've listened to us for a while, in January, Portugal had devastating rains and floods, and our apartment was not spared because we're on the top floor. We got the brunt of it, which was super fun, but I can't really complain because there are people across Portugal that lost everything. The storms were so bad. So they replaced our entire roof a couple of months ago because it was that badly damaged from the storms. But then they hadn't been super proactive about being like, hey, about those interior repairs. And I hadn't either because I'm like, they're going to make such a mess. And I can't. We're going to have to move everything. So we're in the middle of that, right? But this week they should be done. There's been a lot of drywalling. There's a lot of dust happening, but we're soldiering on and it's going to be great when it's done. So yeah. And yeah, other than that, it's just been a matter of getting my kids ready for all their summer stuff. Like my daughter's going to 2 weaving conferences. Aiden's going to 2 summer camps. They're actually the same camp, but it's just 2 different sessions in 2 different places because they do an Oregon camp and a Vermont camp, and he's doing those and camping with friends in between. Liam's going to math and physics camp. So it's just like all this stuff. Aiden's going to go play a big Pokemon tournament in Turin in Italy. Liam qualified for the Yu-Gi-Oh! World Championships, which is in Brussels. And normally in Europe, you just hop on a plane for like €30 to go to Brussels. Like it's not expensive. Mind you, you're flying like steerage class, but I don't care. It's a short flight. I'll stand up. I don't even care. For €30, I'm good. But thanks to fuel prices, as everyone is experiencing, that is not the case. So we might be doing a train bus situation or something to make some of these things affordable, but at least we can have that option. And there's people far worse off than us. So, but yeah, it just feels like it was like for a while you're planning, oh, like this for the kids for the summer, this for the kids for the summer. And now all of a sudden it's like summer's here and it's like, whoa, okay, all these things are happening now. Like at one time, let's do it all. Let's get it done. Who's going where and when? Parenting teenagers is kind of like that. It's like they're all like bouncing around like pinballs and you're just keeping up. So yeah, but otherwise all good. All right. Our topic for the day. Let's talk about why giving homeschool a trial run is honestly just not a good idea. Okay. We are not trying to be negative or rain on your plans that you've been noodling for weeks or months. Our goal, as always, is to set you up for success. I mean, we could show up and lie to you and be like, great idea. It's going to be amazing, but we won't. 99.9% of the time, this is not the path to success. So stick with us.
Yeah, so what do we mean by a homeschool trial run? We mean using summer vacation to kind of test out homeschooling. That way, you can dip your toe into the water before you're fully accountable to giving notice to the school system that your kiddo is currently enrolled in. But we're also including these shorter breaks, like we see it a lot over winter break, or sometimes even weekends or long weekends where people are like, this school year, we're going to homeschool on the weekends so that we get a good rhythm and then we'll pull them out for next school year. Listen, we get the logic. Truly, we do. The impulse makes sense. Homeschooling feels like a huge decision. And truly, that might be the understatement of the century. It is freaking scary for most of us. Most adults do not feel 100% confident when they start. And pulling a kid from school, whether it's public or private or whatever, it can feel dramatic or risky or kind of irreversible. We live in an area where most of the elementary schools near us are lottery system. It is scary to give up that spot once you've got it.
Yeah. My case was the same because my older two kids were in a bi-lit program through the public school system that was lottery. They were in public school in South Florida, and there were some schools that were piloting these bi-lit programs where the kids did 3 hours of their day in English, 3 hours of their day in Spanish. And these spots were coveted. And so if I pulled my kids out and it didn't work and I wanted to put them back in, the odds that they were getting back into that bi-lit program, slim to none. And
Yeah.
so it really felt like jumping without a parachute.
Well, right. That's it exactly. It completely makes sense that the grown-ups in this equation want reassurance before making the leap.
Yeah. And so the parents that we talk to often think that a trial run will answer questions like, can I even teach my child? Do I even know how to do this? Will my child listen to me? Because when I tell them to put their shoes on or brush their teeth, it's not happening. So how is that going to apply to long division? Are we going to fight all day? P.S. We did a whole episode on the dynamic and relationship things between you and your kid when you're homeschooling. Go listen to that. Will they fall behind? Am I going to tragically fail my children? Can I handle the responsibility? We see that a lot too with people who are like, I have ADHD. I don't know that I can make a schedule and keep a schedule and do this thing. I can't do it in most of the other aspects of my life. What makes me think I can do it in homeschooling? So you're not alone. Or they're thinking, listen, things are not going great for my kid at school, but homeschooling might not be any better. It might not be the solution. Is it actually even going to help before I make this giant leap? So we get it. We get the need to answer all those questions.
The problem is that a weekend, a holiday break, or even summer break, a trial run during that time does not replicate actual homeschooling. Really, it replicates a bunch of extra schoolwork during a time that your kid thought was free time for play and fun and decompressing and catching up with their friends and sleeping in. And when you think that way about it, I mean, all of us are probably like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. My grandfather would have said, that's going to go over like a lead balloon. That was one of his big
Yes.
sayings. And I don't blame them. I would be the same.
Hmm.
And this is even more true if you're pulling a kid from school who's burnt out from school, especially if your kid had end of year assessments, finals, depending on what grade level they're in and how far into the school process they are. If you have a kid who's anxious or resistant around academics, and even more so, then you'd be like, I got to test this before I give up my spot or before we make this big decision, because how is this ever going to work? That kid is not going to turn on a dime and make that adjustment with you, and it's not going to be a solid test. A lot of times when parents do that and they decide to use summer vacation, They very much lean into recreating school at home, even if they don't think they are, even if they're trying to consciously not do that thing because they've seen it discussed in Facebook groups. They still end up creating school at home. The family, the whole family, needs time to deschool. And if you go straight into it over summer, that would not be possible in any of those scenarios. Even if you take a month off, 2 months off, eh, not really. We typically do not count summer vacation as deschooling time because it's summer vacation. Your kid would have been on vacation anyway. They would not have been in school. Therefore, you are not deschooling during that period.
Well, that's just it. At the end of the day, you're homeschooling because you want something different. And if you squeeze it in to the middle of the old thing, it's pretty hard for it to actually feel different for you and for your kiddo. For homeschooling to be successful, for you to be successful as the teacher, you really probably want to have a little bit of extra time to make sure you're creating a sense of something new, something different.
Yeah. In other words, a summer trial run isn't a test of homeschooling. It is mostly a test of more of the same, extra school. And if you're considering homeschooling because something at school isn't quite working, more of the same, that test is not going to go well.
Yeah, so I just alluded to it, but the reason these trial runs don't work isn't just logistical. It is psychological as well, because the moment you try to squeeze homeschooling into time your child already understands as not school time, you are fighting against the meaning that time already holds in their brain. Kids are smart. A lot of times we don't give them enough credit. They know if they have a big project they need to work on or a summer reading list they're expected to complete. And they also have a very good idea of how much playtime they're going to have. Kids aren't walking into the weekend or any other kind of break as blank slates. They have an idea of what that time is going to look like, what they need to do, how much time they're going to have to themselves. So when we just all of a sudden try to change that up and use that time to test additional homeschooling, which in our minds is homeschooling and it's totally different, we're really not creating a clean experiment. In fact, that's a really, really bad experiment. Those results are definitely not getting published in a peer reviewed journal.
Yeah, definitely not. And that matters because resistance in that situation is not necessarily resistance to homeschooling. It might be resistance to having their downtime or what their mental picture of summer vacation was or has historically been taken over by this thing. It might be resistance to more adult directed academics. They've just done that for 180 days. It might be resistance to the feeling that school has somehow followed them home and eaten the only part of the week or the year that felt like theirs. So if you trial run homeschooling during the summer, there will most likely be resistance. And it would be very easy to interpret that resistance as proof that homeschooling won't work.
Yeah.
And the reality is we have to look at what we're actually asking them to do and why their brain and their body and their nervous system might be like, hell no. No.
Right. Well, that's just it. Think about it. If your child is still in school Monday to Friday, then weekend homeschooling is not homeschooling. It is school overtime. And unless you have some rockin' union job where overtime means you're actually making bank, the word overtime doesn't have amazing connotations. In the corporate world, or really, a lot of worlds, salaried is not necessarily a good time because it means you get to give us all of the overtime for free. And that's just code for we're going to suck more of the life out of you with no extra money. Enjoy. No one enjoys. And that's the exact vibe that your kid's going to feel, not the rockin' union making bank vibe.
No, not at all. Whether we acknowledge it or not, summer vacations have a really strong cultural and societal connection. I mean, it's in books and movies. There's a countdown to summer, whether it's official or unofficial. It represents an off switch. It conjures images of pool parties and popsicles and a later bedtime and riding bikes in the street with friends. And no matter how well you explain your master logic about testing homeschool to your kiddo, that's the mindset you're swimming upstream against.
I think that for most adults as well, we still enjoy the idea of summer break.
Hmm.
Most grown-ups I know love it when they work for a place that gives like summer Fridays or just different things like that, where you can actually go out, make the most of it. Life is just a little bit more relaxed. Even as grown-ups, we enjoy the idea of a summer break. So if you take that summer break away from your kids who are supposed to get even more of like a true summer break, yeah, it's just,
Hmm.
you know, again, we're going to talk about it more. Good intentions. We totally understand that you
Yeah.
have good intentions with this idea. A lot of people haven't thought through all of the implications. That's what we're talking about.
Hmm. Yeah. I know when my kids were in school, and even when I was in school, especially in the later grades where the end of the school year is like a pressure cooker.
Yeah.
But the whole lead up to the end of the school year is just bananas, even with kids that are in younger grades where they're not doing a lot of testing and finals and stuff like that at the end of the year. The end of the year is filled with activities and performances and shows and award ceremonies and this and that. And you are like limping to the finish line. It's just the worst feeling. And we've all probably had that feeling in other aspects of our lives, right? Where you're running on stress and adrenaline because you're working your way to the finish line of whatever this thing is. And then that thing ends. And somehow automatically, when that stress and that adrenaline stops pumping, you turn into a limp noodle. I totally get that. One of my students that's in my book club, she's been with me for 6 years. She's dual enrolled this semester. And the last couple of weeks at book club, she's just shown up and been like, I haven't read. She's like, I have finals. She was taking a heavy college course load. And so this past week she showed up and you could tell visually that she was not feeling her best. And she came on, she had laryngitis. And I said to her, your finals done? She was like, yep. And I go, how long after? It was like a day or two because she had been going. When that stress vice grip loosens, I get the same way. I melt into a puddle. It all catches up with me at once. And so if that's what the end of your kid's school year looked like or felt like to them, your kiddo is probably in noodle mode and you can join them in noodle mode because you're probably tired too. And taking on something brand new and hoping for an accurate representation of what it would look like long term in noodle mode, burnt out mode, exhausted mode is not going to be an accurate representation of what homeschooling alongside a child who is rested, who is regulated will look like, because that's a totally different picture.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And we're talking a lot about summer break because, like we said, we're recording this in May. It's going to drop in May. But if your child is on a holiday break, winter break, or spring break, or fall break, ski week, depending on where you live, the context can be maybe even worse. Everyone is out of routine. I mean, the big joke in the weeks around Christmas and New Year's, it's always that no one knows what day it is. They're bloated from eating stuff they normally don't eat day after day, and they can't figure out which end is up. There may be travel, family obligations, community events. You just want to go to that tree lighting or try to get better pictures with Santa, whatever the case may be. There's just general excitement. There's excitement around that first off. You're off of school and you're decorating cookies or you're making special gifts or like whatever it is you're doing. And then you add in disrupted sleep and holiday stress, whether it's gift giving or family events or whatever. I mean, there's so much. That is not a fair test of anything except maybe how well you handle stress. But that is not homeschooling. Okay.
Yeah. Let's hope not. If it is, come talk to us. We talk about it all the time. It's hard work. There's days we cry. There's days the kids cry. That's common. If you're having those days, you're not alone. But it shouldn't feel awful all the time. It should be like anything else in your life where you have periods of amazing and periods of, holy cow, when is this going to end? So yeah, if your homeschooling is always looking like the stressful part, we need to talk. All right. So listen, we are involved in enough homeschool conversations to know that tons of people are listening to this and they're like, yeah, everything you're saying makes sense. but I'm still going to do it. I'll make it work. I'll be okay. It'll be fine.
And look, I understand the strong desire to experience it yourself, to learn the hard lessons from firsthand experience instead of tales of warning from others. I personally absolutely swing back and forth between finding out for myself and learning from the mistakes of others. So this podcast episode is all about how to avoid learning the hard way. But if you just need to learn from firsthand experience, just know that if you push forward with an ill-timed test of homeschooling, you're almost certainly, it's not guaranteed, but very likely going to create the exact dynamic you're afraid of, big picture and long term. The grown-up becomes the enforcer. The kid becomes resistant. Learning becomes a power struggle. The grown-up ultimately decides, see, we could never homeschool. And that's like making a recipe with 50% substitutions and then declaring the recipe is terrible. This sucks. We're never trying this again. That was not a fair taste test.
There's an account that I do not follow, but this one thing went viral. And it was this lady who had posted her bread recipe. And one person was like, I didn't have time to let it rise, so I just went with it. It was flat and terrible. And these were 1-star reviews that were left on her recipe. And she just put them out as comic relief for anybody who has any common sense whatsoever to be like, what is wrong with people? Like, that's totally what just made me think.
Yeah, you don't need to let bread rise. It's a total accident when it gets big and fluffy.
Exactly. So there's a huge difference between my child hated doing a workbook on Saturday morning after a full week of being up and out for the bus and doing late nights of homework, and my child would hate homeschooling. They're not even in the same universe, these two things.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And hey, and so far we've been focusing on the psychology of the kid side of things, which, yes, it is absolutely important. We are very pro-kid around here. But it is important to note that you're not setting yourself up to feel capable and confident either. It takes time, sometimes a shockingly long amount of time, to find your groove. This is not a groove you're going to find in a weekend or even a few weeks. It might feel awkward at first, assuming this new dynamic with your kiddo. Or you might feel shaky on the content. You're trying to get a feel for the unit studies you're using, the rhythm, or the way that the teacher guide wants you to explain things. There's such a good chance that your brain is going to jump to, see, I knew it. I can't do this. And I mean, you just deserve better than that because you 100% can do this. You don't have to. If you're listening and you ultimately decide you don't want to do this, you don't have to. But if you want to, we have loads of confidence that you can do this and you can do it well.
Yeah. Okay, so what are we proposing instead? Because we would never just be like, that plan? No.
Don't
not
do
doing
it.
that.
Yeah, but we've got nothing else for you. Good luck. Go forth and conquer.
Yeah, the end. So what are we proposing?
So if you listen to our podcast at all, you know that we need to talk about deschooling. First of all, again, we will say we talk about it all the time, and we have done an entire super detailed episode on this concept alone on its own back in season 2. So we're going to cover it here again quickly, but for more detail, definitely go back and listen to that episode. And then if you have more questions or you do better with written things, dig into one of our online courses, the workbooks that come with that, our big book that's coming out, which I don't know if you've somehow missed it. I'm not sure how you've missed it at this point, but it's currently available for signed pre-orders right now, but it'll officially release June 23rd, 2026, if you're listening to this in the future. Basically, deschooling is a big, important step in your overall process of transitioning to homeschooling. It is often misunderstood, and far too often it is skipped altogether.
Mm-hmm. So many new homeschoolers, whether we're talking summer vacation or any other time, are just resistant to taking a break. I mean, think of the culture that we live in. we know that like 97% of our audience are Americans. So we've got that culture down. It is go, 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 go all the time. So many of us still struggle with rest equaling laziness. How dare we not be productive in every moment of every day?
Yeah.
Or that a lack of constant productivity will equate to failure either in the short term or the long term. And the school system, which was designed to churn out amazing worker bees, is a huge piece in perpetuating those thoughts. You miss a day of school? Oh my God, how will you ever catch up? What do you mean you're not taking all honors courses? How will you ever get into your dream school and get your dream job? So yeah, taking a break goes against so much of what has been instilled in us, whether we realize it or not. And so both you and your kid totally need that break.
And again, look, I get it. As the aggressive academic homeschooler between the two of us, I absolutely understand the worry that you've only got so much time to catch up or stay on track. But that worry is also a huge part of why deschooling for the adults is often just as important, sometimes more important, than it
Mm-hmm.
is for the kids. So often people think deschooling is this thing we do for the kids. But the reality is, we, as the grown-ups in this equation, we have all of those same pre-programmed ideas and beliefs about education, and they are going to creep in unconsciously, and then they're going to negatively affect our homeschooling decisions and actions if we aren't super intentional at the start. And even when we're being super intentional, the things that we know, the way that we grew up, it still seeps in without us realizing it. So, okay, all of this, what is deschooling? You're like, okay, you've been talking for like 10 minutes about it, but what is it actually? It is a period of time where you take a break. You intentionally break the cycle so that when you do start homeschooling, you're creating something new and different and hopefully amazing, not just repeating old cycles, patterns, and habits.
Yeah. So what does this look like in practice? It means letting go of school rhythms. We talked about this last week, where why do kids only advance in grade levels in May or June? It doesn't make any sense in the homeschool world. So letting go of kind of those thoughts of the times that we learn, how we learn, when we learn. And yes, letting go of rhythms is necessary even for neurodivergent kids, because there will be people who are like, this won't work for me. Nope, 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 because my kid is neurodivergent. Amanda and I are both homeschooling neurodivergent kids. So we are totally on board with all that comes with that. So we've got you. Yes, even your neurodivergent kids. Letting go of constant performance, constant need to be striving and achieving. And we'll say this here also, because ironically, I was engaged in a post earlier today. Yes, even for gifted kids. Amanda and I are both homeschooling profoundly gifted children. So we get that too. And I'm putting that out there to say, from the piece earlier where it was like, you're going to be like, yeah, I hear everything you're saying, but I'm going to do it anyway, right? Because my kid is different, because my kid's neurodivergent, or because my kid's gifted, or because my kid's this. No, we got you. All of that's still baked in here. It's all still all encompassing what we're talking about.
Or the flip side is, my kid is behind. My kid's way behind
Yeah.
grade level. I can't take any time off.
Mhm.
Like, we've covered this on other episodes, but when your kid is actually ready to learn, they're going to move through the material so much faster. A couple of months break, even a year break, is really not going to be that obvious a couple years into homeschooling, because
Mhm.
once your kid is ready to learn, they are going to just, progress and learn better
Mhm.
and faster and happier.
Well, because if your kid's coming out of a system where they're quote unquote behind and all this kind of stuff, imagine the messaging that they've been receiving, whether it's intentional or not,
Yeah.
and how dysregulated that poor kiddo is, that they just need time to recover from that experience and that environment. So what else during deschooling? We are letting go of the idea that learning only counts if it looks academic. And we need to reframe those thoughts big time. There's a huge section of that in our book that's coming out. Letting kids rest enough that curiosity can come back. Curiosity is one of the biggest keys to success in homeschooling in my world, because if you have a kid who's just trudging through learning because it's required, everything's harder for everybody. But if you can get that spark of curiosity lit again, which oftentimes either is out or is really, really a small flame because curiosity is not amazing in most traditional environments where they're trying to keep the train on the tracks and moving forward at all times. There's no time for side quests. Bringing that back is going to make it so much easier for you to homeschool long term.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like to use the relationship analogy. So if you've ever been in a relationship that ended and maybe it was toxic, it ends, you could immediately dive in to another relationship with someone who is amazing. And the relationship has a decent chance at being good, but you're coming into that relationship with a ton of baggage that now you have to unpack in your new relationship. Whereas if you had just taken a little bit of time between the two relationships to unpack some of that baggage, so instead of coming with like a moving truck, you showed up with like a suitcase of baggage, your relationship has a much better chance of being everything that it could have been.
Mhm.
Deschooling is that same idea. You can dive straight into homeschooling and it might go fine while you work through all of these issues. It might crash and burn because you didn't work through the issues beforehand, but you have a much better chance of it being just really awesome and all of the things that you wanted if you just take a little bit of time to sort through the baggage, figure out how you're going to move forward, be really clear about how you want this next relationship with education to look and work and feel, and then give it a try.
Mhm.
So, yeah, the trial run plan skips all of this stuff completely. And in doing so, it asks kids to do school oftentimes before they're ready. It asks parents to lead before they have fully shifted their mindset, which will most likely lead you to recreating at home the very thing you consciously chose to leave behind. And then ultimately, it keeps everyone stuck in old cycles and patterns.
Mhm. All right. So A types, listen up because we've got your number here. The A types who are really married to their plan and they're like, I'm doing my trial run over the summer. I can almost hear you thinking, I will start deschooling myself right now. School doesn't end for another 3 weeks. So I will start deschooling right now. And then we can shift homeschooling in the summer back like 2 weeks and then problem solved. Okay. I hear you. I totally get it. But that's not going to cut it. You cannot possibly effectively deschool while you're still getting up every day to see your kid off to school and then helping them with their homework after school. That is absolutely impossible. That plan will not allow you to break free of thoughts like learning must be visible, learning must be measurable, learning must happen during certain hours. A quiet child at a desk equals school success. Rest equals falling behind. All of these things are still going to be there.
That's so true. When I'm coaching families, a lot of times it's these more academic focused families, and this kind of stuff comes up quite a bit. I almost always encourage them to adamantly refuse to do anything that looks like school the first month or two of a new school year. It's hard. It is uncomfortable. It is physically uncomfortable if you are an academic aggressive homeschooler to see all of those kids, all of those teachers going back to school and you're sitting at home not letting yourself do those things. But it is a great way to really break those connections we have that we aren't really even aware of. There's something about all of the kids going back to school and you actively choosing not to join in on that ritual that really helps solidify this idea for you and your kiddo that, yeah, we're trying something totally different now. And if you skip that because you want to make sure that you get your trial run in before it's too late to pivot back to in-person school at the start of the new school year, because you can re-enroll them in the first 2 weeks if you make sure you hit your window or whatever the case may be, you're missing a perfect opportunity to set this whole homeschool thing up for success. And I'm just going to say quickly, it's never too late to do it. So in our case, we have been homeschooling for quite a while, but we have been doing it with a charter because we're in California and they have a homeschool charter option. It still has oversight. It's part of the public school system, but we only meet our teacher once a month and these kinds of things. I'm fairly certain that in the new school year, we are going to leave that system. A whole bunch of things have come up that I'm like, okay, I think I'm just done. And we're going to take this time again to do it because this is a different phase. It's going to
Mhm.
look different than it had. We're going to have different expectations. We're going to get to decide what our things look like, right? We don't have to make sure that we're doing worksheets to turn in. We don't have to do 3 times a year assessments and things like that. And so before we decide what our next school year is going to look like, we're going to take this month when everyone else goes back to school and his friends and cousins and all of those, they go back into a brick and mortar school. We're going to actively not do that so that we can reset and figure out what this new phase of homeschooling looks like. It's never too late. And honestly, it's a good idea when you're transitioning and having different phases.
Mhm. Oh, I love that idea. I'm excited for you. How fun. All right. So Amanda's got her relationship baggage analogy. I've got a little journey for us to go on to hit home this concept. Have you ever been talking about something that you love and it is amazing and it's unique and it's so cool? And the other person who you're talking to tries to relate and brings up their example. And the example is like kind of in the same ballpark. Maybe it's a cousin to your thing, but it's like a third cousin through marriage that's really not the same thing to what you're talking about. And you know that, and you can clearly see the difference. But the other person is like, yep, we are totally on the same page because my thing is just like what you're referring to. So think of it like this. Imagine you're in a Zoom meeting for work. You live in New York City, and right before the meeting, you ran down to the deli on the corner and you got a bacon, egg, and avocado on an everything bagel. And this is the closest thing that your atheist ass is going to have to a religious experience. I mean, the deli has been owned by the same family for 50 years. They make the bagels. They have that crust that New York bagels are known for on the outside, but they're fluffy on the inside. And then it's toasted. And before they put the stuff on it, it gets a little smear of butter. And the egg was cooked on a griddle that's seasoned, a griddle that's got so much other yumminess that comes into that thing, right? And the whole thing is just like magic wrapped in tinfoil that you have showed up to your meeting with. And so you're sitting there having this religious experience on Zoom, and your coworker notices you on camera, and they hold up their lender's bagel from the supermarket and they go, it's like we're sharing a brain. Team bagel for the win. Are lender's bagels universal? Do you have those in California? Is that a thing?
I don't know about in California, but we had them in the Midwest. I was actually
Okay.
just talking about them with my mom.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cardboard supermarket bagel. That's what we are. So, I mean, listen, you're going to be polite, but that lender's bagel was baked in a factory weeks ago, sat in a warehouse, traveled on a truck, sat on a supermarket shelf, and then you just scraped some, I can't believe it's not butter across this edible piece of cardboard. Like, these are not the same things. Okay. So when you're thinking, how different could homeschooling be from school? That's how different it is. Okay. Even if you're like Amanda and you're taking a super academic, aggressive, structured, curriculum-y approach, she's still team New York City deli over there. Although Amanda lives in SoCal and they wouldn't know a good bagel if it bit them in the ass. But she still got the really good bagel version. And it's kind of like during the pandemic when people were like, we're homeschooling because we're doing virtual school. And all the homeschoolers were like, no, you're freaking not. None of this is the same. Distance learning during COVID was a lender's bagel. Okay. So they're not the same. They're very different. And I'm very passionate about bagels.
And clearly, I'm going to admit, I'm not sure I know the difference between what the local to me New York deli and the Brooklyn bakery are peddling compared to actual New York and Brooklyn bagels. But regardless, I can still appreciate the analogy. And look, the point that we're trying to help you understand is that homeschooling truly is both a lifestyle and a mindset. It changes how you think about time. It changes how you define learning. It changes how you measure progress. It changes how your family moves through the world. And it absolutely changes how much of life you realize is education.
Yeah. All right. So what do you do if you're like, okay, I get it, but I'm not sure. I need to be sure. What if I make the wrong choice? What if I can't do it? What if I completely screw this up? Okay. Well, we can confidently tell you that just about every single parent feels that way, and you'll probably never feel sure. At least not until you've truly started in an intentional manner and been at it for a while. In fact, we have a long list of episode topics, and one of them is exactly how long does it take to feel confident doing this thing? So it'll come up eventually in our, yes, let's do this one this week, but it's going to take a while. So waiting to feel sure is not the sign that this is the right move or the right time. This is a leap of faith situation. When it comes to homeschooling, the confidence comes in bits and pieces over time as you see proof that it's working in your kid or kiddos. It doesn't come before you start. I don't really know anybody that felt confident when they started.
Well, I think it's kind of like when you're interviewing for a new job. During the interview process, you're all, of course, I can do this job. I can absolutely do this job very well. And you go in and you rock your interview and you convince them of that fact and they hire you. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh crap, I have to actually deliver all of those things I confidently convinced them I could do. Can I deliver all of those things? Look, of course you can. But also, it's okay to have a mini WTF moment before you dive in, and also to have them randomly along the way. That is just the way real life works. And since we like to keep it real around here, a homeschool trial run isn't going to magically eliminate all uncertainty. It is more likely to create false negatives or convince you that this isn't going to work without ever really having experienced true homeschooling. All you really need to know to get started is honestly, if you're this deep into this episode because you're wondering about trying out homeschooling, at some point you're just going to have to take that leap.
Yeah. So sometimes you just need a friend to tell you, yeah, take that leap. Take it now, not later. Again, if you're 50 whatever minutes in with us at this point, you want to homeschool. Take the leap. It sounds dramatic and scary, but sometimes it is the only way to actually see what life outside of the system looks like. You cannot know what your child is like outside of school while they are still being shaped by the daily demands of school. You cannot know what your family rhythm will be like while you're still living by a school calendar. And that includes summer vacation. Summer vacation is part of the school calendar.
Yeah.
You cannot know what homeschooling feels like while treating it as an extracurricular activity that you slip in on the weekends or for the month of July.
Yeah, that's it. After you do whatever it is that makes you legal to homeschool in your state, and yes, our online course on our book can absolutely help you with that. If you need some help, go there. You can hit up a Facebook group. Maybe it'll help. Maybe it'll leave you more confused than anything. Sit back, watch the fights about HSLDA and all that good jazz. But after you do that and you're legal to do whatever, take a breath, deschool, take that break. Do not start off by making your color coded schedule. Probably don't fill your shopping cart with curriculum, although the reality is I definitely have spreadsheets going all of the time of potential curriculum to get back to when I'm ready. That was part of my preparing to homeschool process, so I get that. But don't start buying things. Exist in this moment of deschool with your child. Learn as much as you can about the deschooling process. Come talk to us in a Patreon meeting or a coaching session. Let's make sure that the future is going to be bright. As cliche as that is, you can do this. And it has every potential in the world to be amazing. It probably won't be amazing on day one, and it will be work. And there will be days that you're going to think, Jesus Christ, what did I do?
Those
But
two
that's
bitches
okay.
lied. Yeah.
We aren't going to lie to you about the fact that there will be hard days. I have absolutely cried, not just as a homeschooling parent, but specifically because I homeschool. But there are way more days that are amazing and things that absolutely make it worth it. It's just like those really hard newborn days, months, years when you're like, what was I thinking? And then you're in the next breath, like, I would give my life for this child. It's the reality, but the journey and the results will be worth it. And we'll say it again. You can do this if you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So we shall end our episode with our mantra that ends every episode to send you on your way with some words of inspiration. Homeschooling is not a test you pass in one weekend. It is a rhythm you build, a mindset you grow into, and a relationship with learning that takes time to heal and reshape. So please don't homeschool over the summer as a newbie. Plenty of us homeschool over the summer, but it wouldn't be my first summer.
Yeah, not your first summer.
Yeah. I totally have kids taking summer classes this summer.
Yeah.
So there you go. Oh, friends. All right. Happy homeschooling. Just not during your first summer vacation. Come hang out with us elsewhere. We're happy to help and provide support. And happy homeschooling. You're going to do a great job.
Yeah, have a great one.